Hi, dear AstroLada family. As I promised, I'm back with another video, and let's discuss that Jupiter and Saturn sign that is happening next year. While Jupiter is going to be in the sign of Leo, and Saturn will be in the sign of Aries. I made a previous video about the almost perfect trine happening this year, but unfortunately it doesn't. So therefore, this is the second part of the video. If you want to know a little bit more about it, you might want to be revisiting the previous video because I also give you a lot of clues why the almost trine is actually super important right now. But before we get going, I just wanted to let you know that I have got a promotion going on. So if you would like to have a look at your own personal chart, then feel free. You can book a reading with me. Just go on astrolada.com and then you will find my profile there. And also this weekend, I'm going to be holding a super interesting webinar about degree theories. And this is not going to be the degree theory of the late Nicola. It's going to be the ancient ways of looking at how the degree theories are playing a major part of your chart. So this is going to be a 2.5 hour recording. It will be recorded. It will be sent out to you with the presentation as well. And we are going to be examining four degree theories in the particular webinar so that you can get the full picture and then you can decide which one you want to work with. But let's get going with this very interesting Jupiter and Saturn trine. So, like I said, Jupiter will be on 13 degree of Leo, which is actually falling onto the Capricorn dwat. Now, if you are unaware of what dwads are, basically each sign is broken into additional 12 parts. Both of them, or every single part is going to be 2.5 degree. So if you count from Leo, then 2.5 degree later, it would be a Virgo dwad, and then the Libra dwad, and so forth. So this is going to be on Capricorn dwad. And then we've got Saturn on 13 degree as well, and that is going to fall onto Virgo dwad. So basically, we've got a fire trine happening. And, for example, what's very interesting here straight away is that both of the dwarfs are on Earth part of the chart. Now, I would like to mention that dwarfs were so important back in ancient times that they classified the ruler of the dwarf more important actually than the actual ruler of the sign. So this is the reason why I'm kind of like introducing this to you. And of course, when you think of fire and earth, earth is the signature of practicality and finances, while fire represents something to do with enthusiasm and actions. So imagine this combination as it's not like a flash in the pan and then I'm just gonna sear it and burn it, but it's going to be a very slow, steady fire in a way because we're gonna come up with some detailed business plan with this. And that's exactly the earth. The earth is kind of like cooling down the fire a little bit. So if you put earth, sand on the fire, it's gonna get put out, right? Or the fire is going to scorch the earth. So they are not necessarily compatible because fire is an active element while the earth is more of a passive element. But I do believe there is a lot of potentials behind this trine, so I'm going to be super optimistic. Well, first of all, Jupiter is in Leo. Jupiter is all about go big or go home in the sign of Leo. It's very charismatic, creative. It's all about performance. Let's put a show on. Let's expand. I want to shine. I want to lead, but also I want to be generous as well. I want to be in the middle of the central stage. I must become the main character. While we've got Saturn, which is in the sign of Aries, and that's kind of like a little bit of a controlled burn. Obviously, Aries would like to get going, let's rush forward, and Saturn is actually pulling it back a little bit because Saturn represents structure, discipline, time. So the impulses are knocked down a little bit. But also, Aries represents new beginnings as well. So this is a time for us to build a new identity, to start completely fresh. Now, when we bring them together, we've got a trine, right? So it means that the two planets are pretty much trying to work together. Yes, Jupiter and Saturn are two opposing uh, forces. While one wants to expand, the other one is going to restrict a little bit. So there is this structured charisma happening with this combination. But there is boldness behind it. There is a lot of creativity behind it as well, because fire represents creativity. So it looks like something is going to be launched. This is going to be a long-term strategy from Saturn's point of view with a touch of luck, and that's Jupiter. Imagine that, I'm an artist and then I'm going to become the CEO of my own life. So I'm going to be promoting my own brand and, I'm going to get lucky with it because I potentially get attention. And there's Jupiter in the sign of Leo. But you cannot look at, and at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a very practical one rising sign detailed description. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through all 12 rising signs, but I'm going to pick one rising sign to kind of demonstrate how to read this together. But remember, the initial phase happened in the sign of Aquarius. We had a conjunction happening between Saturn and Jupiter back in 2020, December. And from a heliocentric point of view, it happened actually in 2020, September. So that's where the seeds got planted. And because Saturn and Jupiter are going to be in trine, basically what you're going to have to do is, let's say you are a Pisces rising sign, Saturn is in your second house, Jupiter is in your sixth house, but the initial seed got planted in the 12th house. So you mustn't forget about the initial cycle. Otherwise, your interpretation potentially will be a little bit off. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. The 2026 trine, it's not just a standalone event, it's actually a critical turning point within that 20-year cycle that started for us back in 2020. It's imagine that it's kind of like we are getting to that full moon or the culmination phase of the cycle. We are kind of like building up to that because Jupiter is super visible right now. Of course, it's in the line of sign of Leo, so it gets the spotlight. And it really feels like if we think of Aquarius, which is a little bit abstract and decentralized ideas of 2020, are brought to the center stage. So it must be seen, it must be centralized, it must be, it's a show in a way. Uh, Meanwhile, Saturn's supportive sextile from Aries to Aquarius shows how we are building it. And we are building it through new individual structures that support the collective ideal. So that's, Saturn is in the sign of Aries, which is a natural sextile to Aquarius. So that's why I picked up on that sextile element. So it really feels like that this 2026 trine is the fuel, that fire element, that allows this culmination of the air age that we are in. Now, remember that Jupiter is actually in a sign-based opposition to that Aquarius. So that's also where the culmination could be coming from. So let's have a look at some potential, scenarios, how I might be able to imagine this going down. Maybe we could see the emergence of new charismatic leaders, Leo in the sign of Jupiter, who aren't just about talk. Because with Aries, it's about pioneering, bold new initiatives. And this is backed by meticulous, practical plans. That would be the Virgo what that the planet is on. And we are building, or we are focused on building lasting institutions. And there's the Capricorn what. It really feels like that this is kind of like a creative renaissance. So there is a boom here in the creative industries like film, art, performance, and it looks more organized as well. So think of a massive, successful creative project, that's the Leo element, that also solves a lot of logistical problems, for example. That's the Virgo dwad. And then it's going to create a more stable industry. That's the Capricorn dwad. And I think there's going to be a lot of focus on self-made success that is going to get celebrated. Leo in Jupiter. Leo in Jupiter loves to celebrate things. So I think we're going to see a lot of personal brand kind of like being built up from scratch. And yeah, some of us will be, flaring in a way, and some of us might be failing, unfortunately. But failure doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't try again or we shouldn't try something else instead. However, the dark side of Leo Jupiter is arrogance and ego. So, this trine could actually empower authoritarian leaders who use impulsive, aggressive tactics, that's the Aries, to build that rigid controlling system, and that's Saturn. Sometimes the style over substance become also important here because, Jupiter in Leo is focused on that grand performative gestures that are actually just micromanaged or critical or fussy. That's the Virgo word. Or there could be this arrogance happening with this as well. The culmination of 2020 ideas could be misinterpreted that, oh yeah, we have solved everything, and it could be leading to a egotistical, centralized power that claims credit for someone else's job, for example. But let's discuss this a little bit more from a personal point of view, because I think this is about disciplined creative mastery. This is a perfect transit to launch your creative project, to start your business, to take on a leadership role that you have been preparing for. It's kind of like feeling encouraged or to be bold. But you're gonna have to have a bit of a detail-oriented mindset, but you're gonna have to be ambitious. You're gonna have to work towards your long-term visions. I think you might become more confident in your work, or it could represent a lot of success through businesses or in your work industry, especially if you have got the confidence to show your unique identity to the world. Confidence is Jupiter and Leo, and the unique identity is going to be the Aries part of your chart. It's not just about action, it's about performing that new self that you have came up with integrity as well as with an authority element to it. And you're going to get rewarded for your hard work. Um, no doubt about it. And I think there is an element of risk taking here. It's a time where a bold risk but with calculated strategy that could lead to expansion. Now, the calculated strategy comes from Saturn being on a Virgo dwad, and the expansion, of course, comes from Jupiter. However, many people can get burned out from micromanagement, or your creative vision can become a source of stress, and you might start obsessing over every little tiny flow, and that's the Virgo word there. And therefore, you can be doing a job that is joyless, or you don't know where to go anymore. And this could be a bit of stubborn aspect as well, because you can get convinced that my way is the only way. And maybe you use your charisma, Leo, to stubbornly enforce your will, and that's Saturn in Aries. And we can be a bit of a show off as well, like overly performative, just to prove the point. Performance is Leo, to prove a point is very Aries type of energies. So I think this is all about building a stage, at least for the next, 14 years, using new tools, Aries, using your own identity to grow and to bring opportunities in your life to build a better future. But it means that we're going to have to become visible. And yeah, so that's one part of the story here. Saturn is about foundation, and being on a Virgo what indicates that we're gonna have to build whatever we want with precision. So Saturn in Aries is your foundation. This is the area of life where the work needs to be done. And the trine from Jupiter will make this work feel less like a slog, or more purposeful, or even more exciting. Because Jupiter is getting ready for a debut. So with Saturn in Aries, we're gonna have to learn to be patient. This is the time to start a thing. Like I said, a new body of work or a new business, but Saturn demands you to do it with patience. We cannot be frantic about it. And it also says that master your craft. It's on Virgo's what? So Virgo is, imagine that Virgo is what like your secret weapon. This is where you obsess over the details. You don't just wing it. You check your sources, edit your work, simplify things, practicing your speech or perfecting a system that you are coming up with. Imagine this Saturn in Aries right now as kind of like a 10,000 hours phase. And Jupiter helps you to make it feel good. And Saturn in Aries is about building yourself up. It's about self-reliance. It's about building my own empire, but I'm going to structure it. What I am building is 100% mine. Now, the Jupiter energy there, which says, take the center stage. Do not be humble expert. This is the time to be seen, to be heard, to perform, to lead. Take a promotion, give the speech, launch that brand, launch who you are. This is supporting visibility. And with the Capricorn word, it's very much about leadership. So be the CEO of your own life. You know, this is elevating something like not just being creative, but being the boss, being in the driving seat of your own life. This is about building up your legacy. Let's say you are an artist, Jupiter in Leo. You are not just an artist, you are actually the director. You are not just a team member, you are the leader of that team. So, this is how we can kind of like come up very briefly about this because this is something that I have spoken about. I prepared a good 2.5, 3 hour long yearly forecast for each rising sign. And this is something that I have spoken about a good 45 to 1 hour in each video because this is actually super important. But let's look at an example to kind of like help you how this could be brought together. So I'm going to be bringing Pisces rising sign for you so that one of the reasons why I picked up Pisces rising sign is because obviously Saturn is leaving your first house. So this might have been a very kind of like remarkable or challenging period for you. Now, the starting point in 2020 happened in your 12th house. So we had that 20-year cycle began with the Saturn Jupiter conjunction in your 12th house. What is the 12th house? Subconscious, endings, the collective unconscious, hidden enemies, self-sabotage, spirituality, bad habits. So the seeds, that 20-year of journey, it really feels like, it's a great reset in the most hidden part of your chart. So maybe it's a spiritual awakening or a commitment to a new spiritual structure or a start of a deep psychological work, confronting some of your subconscious patterns. Or maybe it was a period of isolation. It's kind of like an incubation, actually. Maybe you have been working behind the scenes on a major project, for example, since 2020, or you had certain type of karmic endings, and that kind of cleared your slate. So something had to be dissolved, hidden structures, to have a dream, an unconventional dream, most likely. Now we've got the turning point. A trine can manifest, but a trine with Jupiter, especially when the dignity of Jupiter is relatively good, it could be a golden ticket. Um, and the trine is opportunity, but not without effort. I want to emphasize on that because often people think that, oh, Jupiter is going to go through my seventh house or my fifth house, and surely I'm going to be in a relationship. No. Let's say if Jupiter is in your fifth house and then you are not putting yourself out there on a stage and then go to parties, socialize, all those type of things, guess what? Your life partner is not going to be popping in your life. So, but this is a turning point on a humanitarian as well as on a personal level. Now, Saturn in Aries in your second house, that's the builder archetype there. It's about disciplined action to become self-sufficient. Saturn, which is the structure, the work, it's in the sign of self-starting, but it's in the house of money, resources, and self-worth. So let's say since 2020, you have been dreaming of something. Let's say you have been dreaming of becoming a tarot reader or an astrologer. Now, Saturn is going to demand a tangible foundation for it. You are going to be pushed to build a new financial reality from scratch, and you must become your own pioneer. You must create new structures for your income as well as your values or self-worth, whatever ways we want to be interpreting the second house. And the Virgo, what here says, do it meticulously. This is not a lottery win. It's a detailed budgeting. It's a new business plan. It's a step-by-step process of building up your finances, your values. Now, Jupiter is in your sixth house in Leo. And that's kind of like the performer archetype. So this is something which we have to be doing on a daily basis. It's a creative daily work. Because Jupiter, the planet of luck, is in the sign of performance and charisma, but in the house of daily work, health, systems, the service industry. So it indicates that you can find the growth and opportunity in your day-to-day activities, having to do something that we truly enjoy. And somehow your work becomes a source of pride. So you can get a promotion, you can become this beloved manager, for example, or you can find a new health routine which actually makes you feel vital, confident, stronger. And this is on Capricorn what? The good news is that the expansion is not chaotic, it's steady, it's a little bit slower, but we've got this structured ambition going on here. So let's read them together. Let's look at a scenario. It's kind of like the deep spiritual and creative work since 2020 can give you this new sense of self. And now you are taking this disciplined, pioneering step to build that new independent income stream based on your personal values, something that you are truly kind of like passionate about. And as you do this hard work, your finances can start increasing and your daily work becomes more creative, joyful, and even more recognized by others. So the hard work you do to build your self-worth directly creates joy and opportunities work-wise. The 12th house dream becomes my sixth house reality and the second house income. So this is how we can kind of like read it together. Now, from a negative point of view, and I want to give one example there as well, because even though we've got Jupiter in the picture, a trine, but it can be negative as well. It depends what you went through in 2020. And the 12th house is also anxieties. And if the anxieties are running the show, then Saturn in the second house manifests as a deep fear of poverty, or we become rigid or even selfish about stuff that is mine. So do not touch it. And then we've got that fear-based work ethic. And unfortunately, that is going to get fueled by Jupiter as well. So let's say I can become arrogant, a demanding boss, or I become this diva, that I think that I'm too good to do that job, because, you know. So your financial anxiety, second house, might make you overwork, and that could lead to burnout or conflicts with coworkers. And then you're going to start building a prison instead of a foundation, and the prison is the 12th house. So this is how we can read this together. So I hope this helps you to kind of have a bit of a better idea of how this Jupiter Saturn trine will manifest. It's a super interesting. I think we are in a transitional year. 2026 is a bit of a transitional year. I think it does have opportunities. A couple of other things that I would like to point out, that Jupiter will be in square to Chiron and will be in opposition to Pluto as well. So if you would like me to prepare a video about that with a couple of examples, I'm more than happy. Let me know in the chat box below. But I also know that Lada is going to do their marathon coming up. So many astrologers will be talking about this aspect, but I just wanted to give you kind of like maybe a different perspective, approaching it, slightly bit differently than others would do. So thank you for being here, and I hope to see you again next week with another video that I'm going to be giving you. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.